Hey everyone, this is JB Patterson. Yes, that's me. And I'm here today to talk with you about a dispute method and how to deal with those nasty, ugly charge offs. We all have had one or two of those, haven't we? For you guys that don't know me, welcome to my video. And I would like to invite you to our Facebook group where I am one of the founders of Lifesavers Credit, as well as we do have an Instagram page as well. So make sure to visit over there. We're going to go on without further delay into our method of how we need to handle and deal with these charge-offs. You know, most people believe that once an account is charged off, that they no longer need to repay that debt. Well, unfortunately, that is just not correct. And yes, the debt is still owed. Yes, I said that. The debt is still owed. Just because it's been charged off does not mean that you no longer owe the debt. As long as that account is reporting as a charge off and it remains unpaid, the creditor can continue to attempt to collect on the account, and that may even include suing you for the debt that's owed. So you want to be careful when you start to dispute these charge offs. Now, how are we going to deal with getting these charge offs? First, we're going to find out how is your charge off reporting, okay? So let me need my glasses here. That's a little bit smaller. So here we go. We have here a Trimerged Credit Report. And on this Trimerged Credit Report, what it's showing you is the information that is reporting on all of your accounts as well as your personal information, inquiries, and all that good stuff. But it's showing you all three credit bureaus: TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. This particular account for this particular client, this account is only reporting with TransUnion and with Experian. It's not reporting with Equifax. Okay? Why? I don't know. It could be several reasons. It could be that they don't report with Equifax. It could be that Equifax haven't updated any information on this account or what have you. But we find out when we do our clients credit repair, we find out if that particular creditor reports with all three credit bureaus. So we can make sure that the reporting is accurate, okay, and that it is reporting with all three credit bureaus. Should it be reporting with all three credit bureaus? So we're going to look here at the account number, and we see here that there's several numbers here, and there's a little less numbers here, probably about 4 numbers less here. So right here, we already see an inaccurate reporting line of data on this credit report. What is these little dots after here? They don't have to report your full account number. However, it should report the same length of numbers or quantity of numbers or whatever you want to call it here. It should be that way across the board. This one's missing some numbers. So how do we know that these little stars or whatever these are, how do we know that these numbers aren't different than these numbers that we actually see behind this 18908? Okay, so we need to get them to report this correctly. So that is one of the errors we've already found on here. It states that the type of account here is a revolving account, that it's a charge account, of course. It's for an individual that is derogatory, of course, because it had to be late before it became a charge-off account. But when we get down here to the date that this account was opened, it's stating here on TransUnion that this account opened on November the 25th, 2016. And over here, it's stating that the account opened on November 1st, 2016. So which is it? What day did this account actually open? Okay, so this is something we can point out and put in our dispute letter to the credit bureau as well as to the creditor, because you not only want to dispute with the credit bureau, but sometimes it's best to dispute with the actual creditor and make them update the personal information, especially if it's an account that is a positive account that carries history, that that's actually helping your credit report. You want everything to report accurately as well. But when we're dealing with a charge off, these are reasons that we can possibly get this account removed from our credit report and not just only updated. Here we have a high credit of $543. This says zero. What's going on here, right? It says that this is a collection charge-off, meaning that not only have this account been charged off, but it's possibly been assigned to a debt collector, or it could have been bought by a debt buyer, or it could be an in-house collection. And that's what we're going to find out as we move along. Here it's saying that the last reported date, the last date that this creditor reported on this account to the credit bureaus was July the 28th, 2018. But over here on Experian, it says December 30th, 2017. So they last reported here in 2017, and then 7 months later, then they reported over here to TransUnion. These dates have to match, guys. They have to match, or it's inaccurate information. In the comments here, it says that this is a charge off as bad debt. This is a charge off. We clearly can see that. But over here it says unpaid balance reported as a loss by creditor. Why is, even though that this means, and it's, we clearly know that this is saying that the account was charged off. However, why did the verbiage change when they report it to TransUnion, and then when they report it to Experian, verbiage is totally different? Okay, that's inaccurate information. However, we have found that this was purchased by another lender, meaning this debt was bought by a debt buyer. Okay, and now it's in collections. The date of last activity. It's saying here the date of last activity was November the 10th, 2017, and here it's saying December 1st, 2017. Although that's less than a month's time, the dates are incorrect. They do not match. This report here, this reporting, is not reporting 100% accurate. And according to the FCRA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, your account needs to be reporting 100% accurate. Okay, so that is a reason for removing this account right off of your credit report. Okay, so that's one way to dispute a charge-off account that's reporting on your credit report and possibly having it removed and deleted entirely off of your credit report. As you look down here, TransUnion, Experian, Equifax, right? Okay, it's showing here that these tri-merged reports has data from, what is this, 2016 to 2017. So that's a 2-year time span. Sometimes, depending on what credit monitoring service you're in, it may report, a couple of more years or what have you. But in this case, doesn't matter. TransUnion hasn't reported for 2 years, and neither has Equifax. Not a good thing. Why? Because Experian is reporting, and even though there's data up here, there's nothing down here for TransUnion. And this account down here, it would make me think, the consumer, that I opened this account in February of 2017, when indeed up here it's saying that this account was opened in November, even though the dates vary here. So how in the world is all of this data missing from 2016? Okay, here's another error. You have a 30-day late, a 60-day late, a 90-day late, a 120-day late, a 150-day late. And if we do our calculations correctly, this is 30 days later. This should say here 180 days late, but it still says 150. Okay, how could that be? They didn't update. And even if you want to say, okay, this consumer went in and they made a payment. If they made a payment, then it should reflect that payment there between September and October, over here on October, right? Maybe that's what happened. But however, obviously not, because then this account went into collections in November. It reported as a collection in December of 2017. Okay, so this is inaccurate reporting right there. Okay, so let's move on. Now that you know that you should be looking at how your charge-off is reporting to find errors, so that you can dispute factual information, right? Because this is factual. It's in black and white. This is what the credit bureaus are reporting, right? Okay, so we got them on the hook right here. So we're going to make them investigate this with the creditor and how they're reporting, or this needs to be removed. We'll demand removal of this. That's what you should be doing. Okay. Now, what is a charge-off? A charge-off, it's one of the worst items, I think, outside of a late payment that you could have on your credit report. A charge-off is what happens when you fail to make your credit card payment for several months, usually a 6 months period, 6 months in a row. You haven't made a payment. 6 months in a row is approximately 180 days. Now, after several months of non-payment, the creditor writes off the debt. Isn't that what we just seen on the other slide when I showed you the credit report? We seen that they wrote it off as a loss, right? Okay. And then they write it off as a loss not only on their accounting books, and that's for tax purposes, of course, so that they don't get charged taxes on money that they're showing on their books as if they're collecting that money or receive that money. They write it off so they don't have to pay taxes on something that you are not paying them or have not paid them, but that does not release you from the debt. Okay? Now, they also cancel out the account. They close it. Okay? And then they will demand that you pay the past due balance in full. Okay? They no longer will work with you with a payment at that time because now they want their money, right? So they're bringing your phone off the hook, blowing it up. They're calling you. They want their payment. They want it in full now. Okay? But don't worry. There's a way to still negotiate with your original creditor. Once a charge off is on your credit report, I want you to remember that it will remain there for 7 years from the date it was charged off. When is the date that it was charged off? The date that it was charged off, the credit report that we just looked at, it was charged off 180 days after no payment was made. That's when the charge off starts. That's the last date of activity. And you can also match that last date of activity up with what's reporting on your credit report. Because remember, there was a last date of activity there that we seen. And you can compare those. And if they're not accurate and they're not reporting, correctly, you can dispute that as well. Now, I don't think that you would want a charge off, reporting on your credit report as a negative entry for 7 years. No, you don't. So what happens when the creditor can't collect from you? Let's find out. Often charge-offs are passed on to a third-party debt collector soon after the charge-off date. But once this happens, now you not only have the debt reporting with the original creditor, but you have the debt also reporting with the collection agency, the debt collector. Why? Because they bought the debt. And now they can report it to the credit bureaus because now you owe them. And a lot of people say, oh, don't pay collection agencies a dime. They don't owe you nothing. Well, it's a lot of people sitting in court being sued by collection companies and collection agencies and debt buyers. But you got to make sure that you know the law. You got to make sure that that third party is lawfully collecting in your state because not every debt collector is they're not, they can't collect in every state. So you got to find that out. And you find that out through the different dispute letters that we have in our dispute letter package because we have a dispute letter for everything. And we have a dispute letter package that has over 170 dispute letters. And they're to collectors, they're to debt buyers, they're to the credit bureaus, they're to the other specialty consumer credit bureaus like LexisNexis, SageStream, and all the rest of them. So that link to that dispute letter package will be down in the description here. But let's move on. Let's just keep in mind that when it comes to charge-offs, it's better to deal with the original creditor, the one who's reporting the charge-off, than a debt collector. A collector cannot do anything about what the original creditor reports on to the credit bureaus. Now, let me say this. I've had people to tell me, hey, I disputed this collection. This collection was removed off of my credit report, but the original creditor is still reporting the account as a charge off. What do I do? Well, now you have to deal with the original creditor. See, so once that's reporting twice by the original creditor and as well by the collector, you got to deal with two different, okay? Two different people that's trying to collect on that debt. However, if you had that account deleted, okay, just remember, collection accounts can be resold over and over again in that 7-year reporting time, which is the statute of limitation for reporting. 7 years, right? That it can remain on your credit report. So as long as that debt can be reported to the credit bureaus, the collectors and the creditors can attempt to collect on that debt. And the collection company, just because you deleted that one off, they can resell that debt to another debt collector. Now that debt collector is going to report as well. Okay? You guys have that? Okay? So the best way to handle your charge off is to deal with the original creditor, because once you pay the original creditor, none of those collection companies or agencies or collection debt buyers can report it again. Okay? Make sense? Okay. Now, what you want to do is you want to talk to the creditor. You want to call them up if you want to, if you feel comfortable doing that. And you want to convince that creditor to remove the charge off from your credit report in exchange for payment, which is called a pay to delete. Okay? Before you make that call, though, you need to know how much you're able to pay on the account. The more you can pay and the sooner you can pay it, the more negotiating power you have. Okay? Now, if you can pay in full, you're in a better position to negotiate. Now, you need to ask not to just pick up the phone, call the company, and say, hey, I want to do a pay for delete. No, what you want to do when you call that company, you want to ask to speak to someone who has the authority to remove that charge off from your credit report. Okay? So you just don't want to talk to any, John who, Sally who, Now, you also want to let the creditor know that you're interested in paying the account and you would like to make payment arrangements in exchange for having the charge-off status removed from your credit report. Now, you need to speak politely. You don't be demanding anything, because remember, the ball is in their court because they are the one that's reporting this negative information on you. So you need to speak politely and professionally. You need to avoid blaming the creditor and making excuses or giving your whole life story, okay? Keep it short and to the point. Best case, the creditor will agree to remove the charge off of your credit report. Now, another way to deal with this collection, if you don't feel comfortable in calling, you can send a letter. Sending a pay for delete letter is another way to negotiate a charge off removal. The letter essentially is going to be asking the creditor to remove the account from your credit report in exchange for full payment. Okay? The key to a successful pay for delete letter is getting it in the right hands. Now, try to get the name and direct address of someone who works in the company, who is like a manager or someone, other that's a higher up employee, rather than just sending your letter to general correspondence addresses. Okay, you just don't want to go online, Google their address, and say, okay, this is who I'm sending the letter to. You want to address the letter to someone, attention to, okay, so that it gets into the right hands and into the hands of someone that can actually make a decision on if they want to negotiate with you, okay? Now, it can be, difficult to get a creditor to actually agree to remove the charge off from your credit report. And even so, some card holders have been successfully in making a payment for delete agreement, okay? So people have been successful in doing this. So don't just think, oh, this is not going to work for me. You got to remain positive. You got to be firm. You have to, show these people that you are concerned about your credit. Because if you're not concerned about what's reporting on your credit, they're just going to constantly report every month that same negative derogatory information on your credit report. Now I want you to take note. If you can't get the creditor to agree to remove the charge off completely, then try for something less negative like a simple closed rather than a charged off. Does that make sense? Okay, because a closed paid account looks better than a paid charge off account. It's just a switch in words there, okay? So this is what you want to do. So you want to negotiate to the end. You want to get the best, out of this that you can get, of course. Now, once you get this creditor to agree with you, you want this agreement in writing. When the creditor agrees to remove this charge off from your credit report, get the agreement in writing. I'll say that again. Now, you can do this in two ways. You can have the person you spoke with to fax you a copy of the agreement on company letterhead, of course, or alternatively, you can get the name, the mailing address, and phone number of the person you spoke with. You can then send a copy of your agreement, that means you're going to write out the agreement, to that person via certified mail with return receipt requested. Request that that person sign and return a copy of that agreement to you. Okay? So that's another way to do this. Now, I want you to avoid making payments until you have the agreement in writing and can prove beyond the shadow of a doubt that someone from the creditor's office, okay, made the agreement. Once you have fulfilled your part of the agreement in paying the company what you guys agreed to in the initial negotiation, you need to check your credit report to make sure that the creditor has removed the charge off from your credit report. If they haven't, you take that letter, that agreement letter that you had them to sign, that you sent to them certified copy, so you're keeping track of all of this, and you're going to dispute it with the credit bureaus, and now you have documentation that they said that they would remove it if the account was paid. You also want to keep your receipt showing that this account was paid as well. Now, some of you may be saying, what if it doesn't go my way? When you can't get your way, this is what you need to do. You need, if your negotiation fails and you can't get the creditor to budge, you're going to have to decide if you want to pay the account or not. Even though the account will continue to be reported as charged off until the credit reporting time limit is up, which is the statute of limitation for debt reporting, then it will affect your credit score less as the time passes. So as that debt gets older, it does not have such an impact on your credit score any longer. But it will affect your credit score, as far as, I won't say your credit score, but it will affect, how other lenders, when they go in and pull your credit, if you're trying to establish new credit or apply for a loan or something like that, that can, have a negative effect in you getting, that loan approval or what have you. So, if you plan to get a mortgage or auto loan in the next 7 years, it's better to pay the account if they will not negotiate a pay for delete with you. And once it's paid, then you can make sure that your credit report reflects that payment. Okay. And so that's another way to handle it. A potential lender would probably want to lend to a person that has went back and took responsibility and paid their debt versus one that's just waiting for it to fall off and let that 7 years go by. Now, let's recap. You need to check your credit report for errors. That's one way to dispute a charge off. That's a way to dispute anything that's reporting negative or inaccurately on your credit report. You want the charge off, you know, the charge off doesn't mean that you're forgiven. Okay, so don't think that just because an account has been charged off because it was 180 days late, the creditor wrote it off as a loss or what have you, that you don't have to pay the debt. The debt is not forgiven. You still owe the debt. You need to talk to the creditor. You need to call them, or you need to send them a letter. Okay, and you want to negotiate a pay for delete, and you need to get that in writing, that agreement in writing, okay? And when you can't get what you want and you don't get your way and it doesn't go your way, then you're going to have to settle for that account sitting on your credit report for 7 years, or you're going to have to make a decision to pay it and negotiate at least a paid as agreed or account closed, but you want that charge off to be taken off of there, okay? So if this was helpful to you, go ahead and subscribe, like, and share. Uh, Leave a comment if you have any questions, and be sure to click the little bell so that you know the next time that I go live with another method in disputing. Once again, this is JB Patterson. Yes, that's me. And make sure to join us in our Facebook group. Remember, it's called Lifesavers Credit, and we're over on Instagram, and I'll invite you over there as well. Um, to follow us over there on Instagram. And like I said, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Make sure to tell your friends and family about Lifesavers Credit and how we're working with individuals to help them fix and repair their credit. Until next time, bye.